So I just got done watching the F1 movie, and honestly, I typically don't do these 3-minute reviews on short form for the movies because I leave that up to my co-host Carson. But I had to talk about this movie because it might be my movie of the year so far. And I know that is a very bold statement, especially because I don't think this movie is for everyone. In fact, if you don't enjoy this movie, I don't fault you. I don't think it is a perfect movie, and I think this is a movie that is made for a very specific audience. But I am that audience, and funny enough, I am not a racing fan. I have watched F1 races because I have a really close friend of mine from college who is very, very into F1, so I've watched some races with him, but I've never really been into it all that much. That being said, this movie had me caught hook, line, and sinker. This movie was for me, perfection. I think Damson Idris and Brad Pitt as co-leads for this movie. Granted, Brad Pitt definitely was more of the lead of this movie. Absolutely killed it. This movie had so much more heart than I was expecting, but focusing a lot of its time on the bond between the pit crew, all of the main characters, and that really shocked me. I honestly wish that we got more of that. I wish this movie was even longer and we got even more of that character dynamic, because I think that is where this movie shines almost as much as where the racing does. It's really funny because I was talking with that friend right after I got out of this movie who is a big F1 fan, and this movie feels so true to form with F1. In fact, a lot of the F1 racers and teams are the F1 racers. If you see an F1 racer that isn't Brad Pitt or Danson's character, they are the F1 racer. And a lot of the shots in this movie are from real F1 races. And when they're not F1 races, these two are actually racing the cars. At least that was what my friend told me from my understanding. And you can feel that in the movie. I was at the edge of my seat multiple times. The guy next to me was in the edge of his seat for most of this movie. It keeps you on the edge of your toes because this movie has a lot more twists and turns than I expected. I was honestly going into this movie expecting a pretty straightforward story of a race, winning, whatever. And spoiler alert, they do win at the end. I don't feel like that's a big spoiler. You can kind of predict it. But how they get there is not the way that I expected them to get there. And I sweat a lot during this movie because of that. And one thing I've heard with this movie from the previews and the people that got to see this movie is it feels like Top Gun Maverick, but for racing. I'm gonna have to agree. I think that this movie gives off a lot of the same energy. But if you've seen this movie, let me know your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on this movie and drop a like, drop a follow. My co-host Carson is probably going to be posting his review on Friday, and then we're going to talk even more about this movie on our podcast, The Nerdy Nimrod.